So people say, what church do you attend? I want to say, no, actually, I don't ever attend church. I have never attended church. We don't want to be legalistic about it, but I think it's worth the time and mental effort to reclaim language for Christ's glory.
Sure.
There is no such thing as online church. It's an oxymoron. We act as though our absence has zero effect on the congregation because we don't think of church as a people.
Let it rip.
3.
Let it rip.
2. 2, 1, go!
What's this called? What do we call this?
Plundering Leviathan.
That's it. Couldn't remember. That is going to get Jeremiah just nails on a chalkboard. Welcome back to Plundering Leviathan, a podcast of North Center Church, where our aim is to reclaim culture's gold for Christ's glory. We made it through the opening. That's half the battle sometimes on Plundering Leviathan. It is so good to have our producer back in the room, our director of communications, and a live studio audience. And so this is going to be a fun one. A couple weeks ago, we had a discussion about church clothes. And I dressed to the nines, and you dressed down. Got us talking about idioms. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I asked, what's an idiom? Idiom is a figure of speech. Language that we use, that the actual words in the figure of speech don't mean what the words mean on their face, but they mean something else.
Like why you got a chip on your shoulder?
Right. Perfect example.
You ain't got no chip on my shoulder?
Yeah, what is it? What is it? Chip.
I ain't got no chip on my shoulder.
Dress to the nines was one of them. The whole 9 yards. Pulling out all the stops.
Break the ice.
Breaking the ice.
Spill the beans.
Spill the beans is another one. Those are examples of idioms.
Paying out the nose.
So I asked.
Kick the bucket.
Kick the bucket's another one. Those are all ones that I looked into.
We are swimming in idioms.
We are swimming in idioms. And
even that sentence.
Yeah.
Something of an idiom.
Yeah, it's raining. There's so many idioms in here. They're raining cats and dogs. I asked AI to write me a story, and here's how it went. On a stormy Sunday, with rain falling cats and dogs, Steve strode into Leviathan's weathered seaside chapel, dressed to the nines in a tailored coat and polished boots, hoping to impress the congregation and mend ties with his old crewmate, Jeremiah. The two had parted ways after a half-baked smuggling scheme went awry, and Steve wanted to break the ice by discussing whether to dress up for the chapel's charity event or keep it humble. Jeremiah slouched in a pew, looking under the weather from a rough night at sea, grumbled that dressing up was pointless pomp. Steve, pulling out all the stops, bit the bullet and admitted that flashy attire was meant to show respect, hoping to bury the hatchet. The flickering candlelight seemed to signal the writing on the wall. If they couldn't reconcile here, their friendship might sink for good. As the sermon ended, Jeremiah let the cat out of the bag, spilling the beans about a rival pirate crew planning to crash the gala in plain clothes to blend in and steal the donations. Steve, weighing whether to dress down to avoid attention or to go the whole 9 yards with a bold outfit to rally the congregation, warned that following Jeremiah's casual approach might be the blind leading the blind. They compromised on sharp but practical attire, blending style with readiness for a fight. By the service's end, they agreed to face the gala together, their old grudge buried, ready to outwit the rivals with debating cravats versus open collars. The congregation, unaware of the looming threat, admired their newfound unity, though a shifty onlooker in the back seemed poised to cast the first stone. I thought that was a pretty good story. If you notice, there was like at least 10 idioms in the story.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have, each culture has like a shared language that goes back. And so if somebody came in from like some other culture and heard a story like that, they'd probably have hardly any idea what half of those things mean. Like we use figures of speech daily.
Right.
Like the chip on the shoulder, right?
Yep.
The whole 9 yards. That was in here. Half baked. That was in here.
Language is important.
And I did ask it to throw some with biblical origins in there. So you had blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm.
You had cast the first stone.
Apparently you're a part of Leviathan's chapel.
I don't know. I tried to get it to do one.
That was disconcerting.
I tried to get it to do one based on the podcast Plundering Leviathan, but my AI doesn't have access to it for some reason. I think it's because it doesn't get posted on X as often as it should, but I digress.
Yeah, that's on our director of communications.
Whoa.
Shots fired. It got me thinking, just about a lot of stuff. It's like shared heritage is kind of important. This is like language develops over time. And then what are the origin of idioms, of figures of speech, and how many of them we use that actually come from the Bible?
That's cool.
Yeah, turn the other cheek.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one.
Yep. Go the extra mile.
Go the extra mile. So I was in my 30s when I started reading the Bible.
So you started reading the Bible like 50 years ago.
Yeah. So no, yeah,
Like
that's
when you
where I
were
was
in your
going.
30s?
Right. I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I
Okay.
first, when I seriously started to read the Bible, not 50 years ago. But I see you love to do that. Not that much older than you.
Keep going.
I'm like 10 years older than
Don't
you.
get sidetracked right now.
You did it.
30 years ago. You were 30s. You started reading the
My
Bible.
30s.
And you realized.
Realized that a lot of the common speech in our everyday, language comes from the Bible.
Yeah.
It was really interesting
Yeah.
to me. Not growing up in the church, not growing up in Bible-soaked world. I was like, man, turn the other cheek. Until I read the story in Matthew, I didn't know I knew what it meant, because I grew up at least in a culture where we use these kinds of things. And so you can figure out based on the context when somebody says something like that. Like it's raining cats and dogs. Everybody knows it's not raining cats and dogs. That's not a biblical one. But like, what are the origins of them? So I did ask AI to give me some of the origins of these, and whether they're right or not, I don't know. Like raining cats and dogs comes from it was like 17th century England. When it rained really hard, like the streets would flood, and it would sweep away all this debris, including like stray cats and stray dogs. And so the term supposedly developed from like all these cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs so much that they're floating down the street.
There you go.
Things like
There you go.
Things like that. Dress to the nines was one we used in the clothing podcast, which got us talking about this. And you're like, do you know what it means? I'm like, I don't know what it means. I mean, I know what it means. I don't know what it came from. So I looked that one up, and it had something to do with like if you wore an extravagant outfit to like a ball,
Right,
or a gala, like in our little story that we just read, you would use a lot of material, fabric, to make the clothes. And especially back in the 17th, 18th century, they would have like really big long coats and all these things. They would have to use the whole 9 yards. So yard being a measurement. And so the whole 9 yards, or dress to the nines, comes from the 9 yards.
Oh, so they mean the same thing. The whole 9 yards?
The whole 9 yards would be like going all in. Like you use all 9 yards.
All of your resources.
Yeah. Pulling out all the stops was one that you used right after that. Pulling out all the stops supposedly comes from organs, the musical instrument with the pipes. In an organ, when you play the organ, and you have different banks of pipes that are controlled by airflow, and you had stops that would shut off the air to certain banks of the pipes to adjust the volume and the tone. And so when you pulled out all the stops of the organ, you got all the pipes involved, and it just made a big, huge sound. And so if you're pulling out all the stops, you want to go big.
Isn't that
Right?
awesome?
Yeah.
Liz and I were on a walk yesterday working through that one, and we came to the conclusion that you have things that hinder you, like roadblocks,
Okay.
and you pull them all out. You get all the things that would stop your progress, and you would remove them. That must be where that came from. Because we didn't research it. We were just,
You're just trying to work through it?
Trying to work through it. Like, pull out all the stops.
Yeah, because we don't play organs anymore, really. I mean, you go to some churches and they still have like an organ in the back and about a 99-year-old lady that
you go
can
where?
still play it. To some churches.
You go to some churches.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
So you
You want to go there.
Chapel.
I know you want to go there. Just wait.
Leviathan's Chapel.
Yeah.
Wait, we're going to get there.
All right. So apparently, some churches have organs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you know this. Don't play dumb.
We're going there.
And so, yeah, some churches have organs. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have an organist. And the only person that can usually play these organs are the old gals that have been around a long time. And apparently there's stops. But if you don't go to a church that has an organ, you don't necessarily, you don't know this thing. You notice I'm poking them a little bit because...
But I think unintentionally. I think you can't. I think that is your normal vernacular.
It is, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's how we talk. No, it's church. We go to church.
Go to church.
Which leads us to one of Jeremiah's biggest, I don't know if it's a pet peeve, but I didn't think as much about language as before meeting Jeremiah as I do now. Because you are very conscious of the words you use. Words matter, right?
Words matter.
Words do matter. And we use some like flippantly. For instance, holy cow! Can a cow be holy? Is it even right to say holy cow? Should we use that word? Jeez.
Right.
Yeah, should we really be just like flippantly saying that? Gosh darn it.
Uh-huh.
There's another one. Oh,
Yeah.
What's behind the meaning of that term or that word? We don't want to be flippant with our language. And I hadn't thought as much about it until I met you, and I've been thinking a lot about it, and I have to catch myself sometimes because I think we can be careless with our words.
Yeah.
Right? And if our Savior indeed was the Word made flesh, maybe we should be a little bit more cautious or even purposeful in the words that we use. And there's a couple of them in particular that you have that that'll drive you nuts. For instance, if I say, "Hey, welcome to church," right? We do the greeting, we do the welcome time, and we say, "It's so good to see you all. Welcome to church." That is going to get Jeremiah just nails on a chalkboard. There's another one.
Invite the worship team up.
I'm going to invite the worship team. So there's a few things.
Because we have a special team that worships. Nobody else does. It's just this team. This is our worship team. Everybody else, I don't know what we do, but they're the ones that worship.
Mm-hmm. These are terms that drive Jeremiah nuts. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to plunder language, just in general, like speech that we use every day, but also specifically church language.
Yeah.
Language that we use. Here, I'll make you happy. Language that we use at the gathering.
Why don't you say language that we use in the church?
In the church building?
No, in the church.
We could use that, but you have to define that. And
Exactly.
to define that, yeah. So when we're using language, we have to define what's church.
Exactly.
Yeah, is it a building? Is it a place and time?
Right.
Yeah. And so Jeremiah is very conscious of these things. And I appreciate it. I'm poking funny a little bit, but I do actually appreciate it. It gets me to think a lot more intentionally about the words I use. So the writing's on the wall for this podcast. There's another one. Does anybody know where that comes from? Back in the peanut gallery.
Persians and Medes.
Nice.
Many Tekel Parson was the writing on the wall.
Isn't that Daniel 5?
Got it. That's it.
From the peanut gallery.
Nice job.
Right.
So the writing's on the wall.
Years ago, Liz and I had a thing where we would reserve the word love for something that you would be willing to die for. And if you're not willing to die for it, you can't say you love it. So we can't, I could never love my French fries. Man, I love these. Nope, can't say that. Because we're gonna reserve love. We're gonna reserve awesome for God. And so I went and watched some street ballers soup it up last Sunday, and this shirtless white boy in front of me jacks up a Hail Mary 3-point shot, and it goes in. It went in. And another idiom. Hail Mary. My gut response could have been, "Wow, that was awesome!" But it didn't inspire the same kind of awe that God does. And so if I use that for that Hail Mary shot, it cheapens the word when I sing, "Our God is an awesome God." Mm-hmm. So we just want to hang on to language. Kevin DeYoung said, we just don't let go of words. Christians need to fight for our vocabulary, our words. This is Plundering Leviathan. We have a culture that has grabbed, I would say, our language, and we've just cheapened it. We don't want to be legalistic about it, but I think it's worth the time and mental effort to reclaim language for Christ's glory.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because the culture is trying to take it and twist it. There's no question. Mm-hmm. I mean, the number of times I hear the Lord's name used in vain at the workplace, before I even start my day, I have heard my Lord's name used in vain 20 times, easily.
Yeah.
Right away. I walk in, guys are at the computer looking at their routes, and they are just blaspheming left and right.
Well, their entire vocabulary is just 4-letter words stringed together with other 4-letter words that if you were to just pause and dissect their sentences, they don't make any sense. Yeah. And they know that. They're just saying words that our culture has prepackaged for them that are going to make them feel good about themselves.
Sure. So church is one of them.
Church is a big one.
Worship is another one. And so I just want to kind of turn it over to you, and now we set the stage for this conversation.
Another idiom.
Let you run. Set the stage, exactly.
So here's my opening paragraph. The words we use are important. Why? Because words create worlds. God used words, and a world was born. 100,000 galaxies were born. Mm-hmm. And Jesus is the Word made flesh. Mm-hmm. So words create worlds. How we talk shapes how we think. Language doesn't just reflect thought. Language forms thought. Mm-hmm. So how we speak forms how we think. And that gets to church. How we speak about the Sunday gathering shapes how we think about it, and that in turn shapes how we live. And so if we want to form a biblical vision of the church, we need to speak in biblical categories. Which I think means there's a better phrase than welcome to church. So that's my argument. The Greek word that is translated in English as church is
ecclesia.
Ecclesia.
Yeah.
Which means?
It comes from ek.
Excellent.
Kaleo.
Kaleo.
Yeah, 2 words. Ek out of, kaleo, called out ones.
Well, kaleo, to call.
Kaleo, to call. Right, so the called out ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones who are called out.
Yeah. Kaleo, verb form, to call. Calling one out. Ecclesia, called out ones.
You are the called out ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's used, that's what it means, literally. It's used in the New Testament to describe a congregation of people who are united by a common belief and who are regularly assembling or gathering together around their unified belief. So that's how it's used. This is really important. Sometimes it's translated assembly, instead of church in your New Testament. Sometimes it's translated as gathering instead of church. Mm-hmm. Sometimes ecclesia is translated church. Mm-hmm. That's the way that it's used. The assembling of the people, the gathering of the people, and a particular people who have a shared, unified belief. In this case, around the Lord Jesus Christ and the gospel. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's describing a particular people used most often in the context of their gathering together, which is why here at North Center we refer to our time together on the Lord's Day as the gathering. Because that's literally what the church means. So when you say welcome to the church, or welcome to church, it's not inappropriate to say that. I'm going to argue that most people don't know what it means, though. We have a different connotation of what we mean when we say welcome to church. If we mean welcome to the gathering, then it's appropriate. So we just say what we mean. Welcome to the gathering.
Welcome to the gathering. Yeah, because if you say church only happens within these four walls between this time and this time, what are you outside of that time in that place? Are you still the church?
Correct. So that's what we're going to get to. What I want to build this to is I'm going to do two things. First, how does the Bible speak about church? Take a couple minutes and just go through a couple of verses. Here's how the Bible speaks about church. And then, what do we lose in our culture when we confuse that word the way that we have confused that word in our modern vernacular? What's lost when we speak about church as a day, a place, a time, a building, a service? Which is how it's used.
Okay.
You know how many times I've driven by your church? I drive by your church every day on my way to work. No, you don't. You drive by North Center on your way to work. But you don't drive by my church. Oh, it's my week to clean the church. It's your what now? It's your week to clean the building? Or the what do we mean by church? We mean a building in that case, but I'm jumping. The church is a people, not an event. Shh. We're in church. Or, hey, what time does church start? Well, now we're not talking about a building. What are we talking about? We're talking about an event. Hey, my church starts. You should come to church. It starts at 10:30. Church starts at 10:30. What starts at 10:30? An event. This is the way that we talk. It's not a people. It's an event. People don't start at 10:30. My event starts at 10:30. I'm driving by your church on my way to work every Monday morning. Well, you're not driving by a people, you're driving by a building. So, all right, here we go. How does the Bible speak about church? Here's a couple of them. Matthew 16:18 is the first time it shows up. Ecclesia.
The gates of hell will not prevail.
Nice.
Against this. Oh yeah. So Peter's great confession was just made. Yep. And he says, on this rock, Peter's confession, I will build my church.
I will build my church.
And the gates of hell will not prevail.
Yes. That's the promise that Christ is going to build the church, which is presumably not limited to the Lord's Day. Right? Would you agree? He's probably building his church Monday through Saturday also.
Sure.
Matthew 18:17. In the context of Matthew 18.
Church discipline.
Look at this guy. He's on fire. We go to our brother Trevor and we're like, hey man, that's a double dribble. And he's like, no, it's not. And then I'm like, hey Steve, come here.
Yeah.
Okay, Trevor, that's a double dribble. And Trevor's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And then what do? We
Getting dumber as he talks about it.
no, it's not. So I've gone to him and I've tried to reason and he's just blowing me off. So then I bring another brother and we go to Trevor and he's blowing both of us off. So then we
go to the elders.
No, we tell it
to the whole church.
To the church.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
To the church.
We aren't told when or where this kind of discipleship takes place. It's just within the context of the church. You tell it to one, which isn't necessarily going to be on Sunday. I might come to him one-on-one on Tuesday, and it doesn't work. So I bring Steve with, and we might come on Thursday, and then it doesn't work. This doesn't mean that we save it for the church gathering. It just means that the whole church then is going to be involved in the discipleship process. It might take place on the Lord's Day, but that's not implicit in the text. We just tell it to the church, which is a people, right? I mean,
it'd be really weird if it was a building.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, if you replace church in that context with a building, it'd be very strange.
It would.
If we go, hey, church building, did Trevor...
Right, talking to bricks.
Right.
Yeah.
We are talking to bricks because we are the church.
We are living stones.
We are living stones.
Right. Yeah, we got it. This is language. All right, here. Acts chapter 8, verse 1. What do we got? Peanut gallery.
So, end of 7 is Stephen's speech.
Yes.
End of 7, Saul approved of his execution. Beginning of chapter 8, and Saul still breathing threats and murder against the church.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
This guy knows the book of Acts.
Look at that.
Woo.
Breathing.
So there might be an elder position available soon.
No, there's an elder position. There's been an elder position open for a long time. We just can't seem to get it.
So breathing out threats against the church. Good job, Trevor.
Yeah, there is a persecution that has arisen against the church, presumably not just on the Lord's Day. Right? The church is probably being persecuted on Monday and Tuesday also. So we're just building up, like, this is the language of the Bible. It's not talking about a building. It's not talking about a time and a place. It's talking about a people. Just over and over. Let's see. How about Acts chapter 12, verse 5? Peter is in prison, and how does the church respond?
Prayer.
And you know what kind of prayer? It was constant. So Acts 12:5, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. Probably not just on Sunday morning, right? The church is praying for their brother in prison. Okay, let me see a couple more. Acts 14:27. Now when they had come and gathered the church together, so there's two words here. One is gathering and the other is church, which is to say that they're not even synonymous. The church is gathering. There is a people who assemble. They gather together as a regular basis, and they have taken this people and gathered them together. When they had come and gathered the church together, they reported all that God had done and how God had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. This could have taken place anywhere and any time. The scene doesn't say or even imply it was on the Lord's Day at the regular meeting place. It was just somewhere, sometime, they gathered the whole body together and said, here's what God's doing with the Gentiles. Acts 20:28. Therefore take heed to yourselves and to all the flock among which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers to shepherd the church of God, which he purchased with his own blood. Your job to shepherd the church of God, purchased by his blood, is not limited to 10:30 to 12 on a Sunday morning. And we could go on. But now let's move to the idea of, like, there's a particular place generally that the church meets. They just become known for also where they gather. So you have, for example, Paul referring to an individual in Romans 16, and he says, likewise, greet the church that is in their house. So there's a meeting place. We're going to meet in this house. The church is not the same as the house, but there's a place where this church tends to meet. And then all of his letters, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 2, to the church of God which is at Corinth. The identity of the people is different from the identity of the place. There's the church and someone's home. There's the church and a particular city. And the examples of this kind of language go on and on and on. So now let's move to how most Westerners talk about the church. Here's how most Westerners talk about the church. We've already covered some of this. We talk about it as an event. What time is your church? When does your church start? We talk about it as a place. Where is your church? Where's your church? So I'll tell people, like, I'm a pastor. And they'll go, oh, where's your church? And I want to say, wow, Oakdale, Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Crystal, Anoka Ramsey.
Yeah, and it goes on.
But that's not what they mean.
Right.
They mean,
where's your church building?
Where's your church building?
Where do you gather?
Where do you gather?
Yeah, which is what you'd rather them say.
I pass the church every day on my way to work. You do a ton of driving if you pass my church every day on your way to work. Not because we're that large of a church, but because our church is just spread out that far. And we talk about it as a building. So we have a rotation of people who clean the church every week. No running in the church. You know, we're in church. When the worship service on the Lord's Day begins with somebody saying, welcome to church, the question is, what do we mean by that sentence? So we've had this conversation. Do we mean welcome to a building? Do we mean welcome to this worship service? Do we mean welcome into the gathered assembly of the body of Christ, or do we mean all of the above? And regardless of what we mean, the more important question is, what does the congregation think we mean? That's bigger than what you mean. When you say, welcome to church, you might be thinking, welcome to the gathered assembly. And I would say then that's a biblical sentence. Welcome to church. If you mean welcome to the assembly, welcome to the gathering, biblical sentence. The problem is, most of the people sitting in the pews, they're not tracking with you. They're not on the same page. There's another idiom. What has our culture been trained to think when we hear the word church, and how has that shaped their thinking about the purpose of the weekly gathering and the role of the local church in their daily life outside of the gathering?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something with all of that. I've talked to, especially during COVID, when we weren't gathering,
right,
incarnationally, in person, we were doing a lot of
online church.
Online.
If you can't see that, these are the biggest air quotes I can give.
And you would argue there is no such thing as an online church?
There is no such thing as online church. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, because it's not assembled people. Right? So if a church is called out ones assembling, then they're not assembling in person. The way that the Bible talks about.
No, they're not assembling. I'm going to argue they're not assembling at all. When you're online, you are in. Words get hard when you are referring to an online experience, because you might say, like, you're not in community, you're not gathering, you're not assembling. So all of those verbs are off the table. You are observing a pixelized representation of a gathering. But I don't see, if Trevor's leading in our singing, if he's behind a microphone on a Sunday morning, leading in song, and I'm watching from the live stream, I can't see Trevor. I see pixels that are in the form, a reflection, a likeness of Trevor. But I can't see Trevor.
Sure. Jesus at the well was talking to the woman that had many husbands, right? And he tells her, there's coming a day when you're going to worship in spirit and truth. Right? So in a way, someone could argue, I'm just pushing back just a little bit, not that I don't agree with you, but pushing back just a little bit. If you're worshiping online in spirit and truth, some would say, well, I am actually still engaging because it's not a place that I have to go and worship, because that's what she was asking him.
Absolutely.
Like, where are we supposed to be worshiping? On this place and this place? And Jesus is saying, no, there's coming a time when you're going to worship in spirit and truth. And so some would argue with, like, when you go online to do that, as long as you're doing it in spirit and truth, you're actually doing it the way Jesus said.
Right. I've got my response. How would you respond?
I don't know biblically how I'd respond, other than the one another's. Like when you start talking about love one another, care for one another, confess to one another, all of those things have to be done incarnationally. It's not to say that you can't do that the other 6 days of the week outside of the corporate worship time. You can still do that. But there is something special and unique about gathering together in person to corporately worship with giving and worship over the word and worship and singing. There's something special about that. And unique about that.
Well, there is. Absolutely. I think the incarnation informs the body life of Christ. The body of Christ is incarnational.
And I would also say you cannot also partake of the sacraments.
You can't.
Online.
You cannot be baptized virtually.
Right, you can't. Well, there are churches that are actually doing baptizing of. There are congregations out there that are baptizing. What do they call it when you're
Avatar?
Avatar. They are, for real. There are local churches, if you will, that are baptizing avatars.
Look, this goes back to language. Whatever they're doing, they're not baptizing anybody. You can call it what you want, and this is my response to your John 4, where Jesus is with the woman at the well, and he says, "Spirit and in truth, not this mountain or that mountain." This is again where we have conflated the language, and we use the word church and the word worship interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about worship, what we think about is an hour and a half, 1 day a week, at that building, at that place.
Mm-hmm.
That service is the worship service.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm arguing, yes, we must worship and in spirit and in truth, but that actually doesn't have any bearing on the question at hand, because we're not talking about worship, we're talking about the church.
Yeah.
Sure,
Right.
you can worship in spirit and in truth anywhere, anytime. That's not the conversation. But if we conflate worship with 10:30 to 12 on Sunday, that's when we will talk past each other, go, well, I can worship anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh, yeah, of course you can. But I'm not actually talking about worship. I'm talking about the church.
Mm.
Worship is something the church does from 10:30 to 12 on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
incarnationally, but they are not synonymous. There's more happening from 10:30 to 12 at North Center on Lord's Day than worship. Worship informs, infuses all of it,
Yeah.
but we're also worshiping from 8 to 2:30 a.m. on Friday night.
No, I agree with you. And you can't take the sacraments. Like if you're online, you can't do that, so you can't be baptized
You can't be baptized
physically, and you can't take the bread and the wine physically as a sacrament.
Right. And what churches were doing over COVID was saying, go to your kitchen
Mhm.
and grab some grape juice and some bread. And now what we're doing is this really odd, individualized. So when Jesus breaks the bread and gives it to his followers, it's this idea of one loaf and we all partake of that. One body, we all partake of that. One cup, we all drink of that. And now what we've done is we have separated, and we're all grabbing from our own individual breads and our individual cups, and we are sharing the Lord's table with a pixelized representation of
Right.
the church body. Very, very odd. Whereas I think Mark Dever's church was onto something when they said, if we can't take it together in person, we're going to use that absence to foster renewed affections for the local gathering and the Lord's table. We're not going to substitute it with
With a live stream or online
with
experience. Yeah. One of the things over COVID, I had lots of conversations with people just as part of my job. And I would start conversations based on things at their door or whatever that seemed to be referencing Christianity. And I've talked to a couple of people that maybe had just moved here during the COVID time and they didn't have a local church body to gather with. In talking to these folks, a lot of times there was just this real longing for incarnational worship and fellowship.
Yeah.
Because they were not having it. They were missing out on a major part of what the church does. And then, so going back to the idea of an event, right? This is where I'm going with this. Then I would start, as I have further conversations with these folks, as they're looking for a local body to worship with. A lot of times what I heard is, they visited this church or that church or this building, that building, this congregation, that congregation, whatever language you want to use.
No, but see, here's the thing. Pause. I'm saying we shouldn't be afraid of the word church. If we mean people, use the word church. If we
It's just
mean
what we
people,
say, like
use the word
North Center Baptist Church. Like that's in our title. And so
because it is the
if
people.
you say,
we are
the
North Center Baptist Church.
Yeah.
We are the people.
So she went to lots of these different churches. One gal that I'm thinking of in particular, right? And her preferences for the event that she was looking for was what she wanted.
Uh-huh.
And so she visited the church that I was attending at the time, and she wanted something. She wanted a concert-like experience with the music. She wanted like the coffee bar, and she wanted a certain type of preaching because she was looking for an event.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. And part of why she's looking for an event is your language right now is she visited the church that I was attending. Well, what do you attend?
Yeah.
Events. And so even our language to say, what church do you attend, is to say, what event do you go to on a regular basis? And if you don't like the event, we'll go to a different event.
Yeah. We do. We attend the church.
And I want to say, and I think that's super problematic. You should be part of a church. So when people say, what church do you attend? I want to say, no, actually, I don't ever attend church. I have never attended church. I can tell you what church I'm a part of.
We take attendance at church.
No, we have, historically.
Well, and there's still folks that do take attendance. We do every week. I could take you over to the
I know.
We tracks it.
Right.
And we do take attendance.
Right. Which is
to find out how many folks gathered that day.
To find out how many folks showed up. And, I mean, this is what we do at work. You clock in and clock out. Like, I showed up. I'm arguing language. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, yeah, of course, in order to be a part of a church gathering, in order to be a part of a church service, you have to attend. That's kind of step one. Like, you gotta get into the building on a Sunday morning.
Sure.
If you're gonna, but I'm just saying, like, language matters, and when we use event-like language, it fosters a worldview that makes people think of the church as an event that this event isn't as fire as the event down the street. So let's go to that one.
But the heart behind taking the attendance is good.
Absolutely.
Because we want to find out who has been here, who has not been here. So if somebody has fallen through the cracks, as elders, we just don't have our hands, our arms around every single person. We can't see every single person every day or every Sunday. And so if somebody hasn't been here for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, we want to know so that we can reach out. We can't know if we don't take attendance, doing that thing with my fingers. So call it what you want. I mean, I don't have a problem with the verbiage attendance. I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. But at the same time, like, do we want to be so dogmatic about that word attendance or attending that we lose the heart of the reason for taking attendance?
Take a census.
Yeah, take a census.
I think taking attendance is fine. I'm just saying, what I want to do is I want to fight for better vocabulary on the street, at street level. Here's let's do a couple of thought experiments. All right, here we go. Thought experiment number 1. Let's imagine that you attend the Sunday morning service.
Attend what? Do what?
Yeah, you attend. I'm using that word intentionally.
All right, carry on.
You attend the Sunday morning service at the local church building like you usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And this Sunday, the only thing different about the experience was the congregation. The only thing different. Instead of the building being full of covenant members, it was full of unsaved visitors. Mm. Let's say the church was on a mission trip, South Africa somewhere, and you weren't able to go because you couldn't find a babysitter for your dog Blue. So you had to stay home. Sunday comes, you're the only one from the church that is still here. So you attend the Sunday gathering, and we got a guest preacher to come in. Mm. Everybody else in the building is unsaved. They were here over the weekend attending a tattoo festival. Of course, they're not saved. You know, if you're attending a tattoo festival,
show your arms.
There's no way you're saved.
For those watching online, you can see his arms.
And so they attend the service. It's you, a preacher, and a building full of unsaved people. Okay? Uh-huh. Everything else is the same. Preaching feels the same. Music feels the same. Later that afternoon, you're reading a book on your front porch because you're lonely. There's nobody else here to connect with. They're all gone on a mission trip. So it's just you and Blue. And your neighbor walks by and says, "Hey, how was church today?" How do you respond?
I would say something like it was different.
It was different.
It was definitely different.
It was weird.
It was a little weird, yeah. I didn't see the people whom I love that are part of my local body.
Yeah.
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 I didn't have my shepherd guiding me from the pulpit.
Yeah.
I didn't have my music leader leading me in singing music.
Right.
Yeah. It would be different.
So whatever descriptions you might use, different, good, unusual, awkward, odd, we would still say that we went to church because we were in the right building at the right time on the right day for the right service.
Yeah, we probably would.
Which is just to say, we think of it as a building, time, and place, not people. The whole church could be gone, and we would still respond that we went to church because time, place, service.
Okay.
Different thought experiment. How would we talk about the local church if we met in Steve's house instead of a separate building designed for the liturgical services on the Lord's Day?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one based on the Bible, how they talk about it. The church at Steve's house.
Yeah, so local congregation, like-minded believers, meets regularly on the Lord's Day for worship, preaching, congregational singing, and fellowship at Steve's house. On a random Tuesday evening, if somebody were to meet me and want to hang out with me and ask where I was going so that they can follow me there, where do I say I'm going?
You just going to Steve's house.
I'm going to Steve's house. Yep. That's a random Tuesday evening. If they ask me that question on the Lord's Day morning, where am I going so that they can follow me there? Where do I tell them I'm going?
Church. We gather at Steve's house.
Well, we meet at Steve's house. It's Steve's house. It wouldn't make any sense to say I'm going to church because that isn't of any directional benefit as a landmark to them.
It's so embedded in our language. I'm still saying that's what we would say.
There is no place. If we meet in Steve's house, if the church meets in Steve's house, there's no place called the church. My neighbor is not going to make it to the church gathering because he doesn't know where the church is because I didn't tell him. It's at it's at Steve's house.
This is going to be a long battle to fight.
Steve's home is not the same place at church. Let me beat this dead horse one more time. If I were to ask Steve where he lives, would he respond by saying, "Oh, I live in the church"? No.
But if you were at the parsonage next door to the church, you might say.
But next door to what?
Exactly. But that's how we talk.
That's how we talk. So if we think of like the church meeting in homes as we see in the New Testament, we all know there's a difference between the church and the home, but that line gets blurred when we have a building specifically designed for the gathering of the local church. Now we have a people who are the church, a building that is the church, and a Sunday service called church. Here, now all of this is to say, people will be like, so what? So what?
So what?
So what? Here's the so what. I'm going to argue when we lose our vocabulary, that's not the only thing that we lose. There's something that's lost on the Lord's Day, and there's something that's lost the rest of the week. And here's my argument. And there's probably more that's lost, but here's a couple of thoughts. What's lost on the Lord's Day? Let's start there. Number one, I think we lose community. When we think of church as an event, a service, one of the things I've discovered, like when we first came to North Center, there was this disappearing trick that took place. And this almost appearing trick that took place. So the service starts at 10:30. The building could be pretty empty at 10:20. But all of a sudden, right about 10:30, the building started to fill up with people.
And typically about 10:45 or 10:50.
And you finally get the whole congregation is there about 11 o'clock. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Service ends at 12. Pastor gives the benediction. And if you were to close your eyes during the benediction, so we have this practice of holding out our hands to receive the benediction, and if you were to close your eyes during the benediction, the magic trick happens the moment it is over, you open your eyes, and the building is empty. Why? Because church is done. Church is done. We have this idea of event, not people, and so when the event is done, church is done. And so here's the thing. When we think of church as an event, we tend to treat it the same way we treat any event. How do we treat events? Well, we come right around the time the event starts. We find our seat and we wait for the event to start. This is every church.
That's true.
And when I say church, I mean every people, every group. You find you get there.
Yeah. So to your point, over COVID. So I wasn't attending. You want to use that term? I wasn't going to the local gathering because COVID was hard on me. I didn't enjoy that time at all. I didn't want to go and abide by all the rules and do all the things. I'm a bit of an outlier in that regard, and so I was
You're talking about like the distancing and the masking,
social
and all
distancing, the masking,
gotcha.
the attendance limits, all of those things drove me absolutely nuts. And so I was exploring on Sunday morning. I was exploring online churches, and I found one in particular. I'm not going to name the name. Okay, I'm going to name the name. Eaglebrook.
Online
big, huge,
churches.
Yeah, churches that were live streaming their service.
Air quotes.
And air quotes around service. And so I found one, Eaglebrook, a huge church in the metropolitan area here in Minneapolis. Multiple sites. They do the thing where they have, I believe, they have the lead pastor, if you will. Again, air quotes around pastor over multiple locations. And so...
Because the question there is, can you be, and this actually, we're not going to get there today, but this is
10 local bodies.
This is directly related to our understanding of what the church is.
Yes. You have a shepherd over a body.
So so can you have, you put in air quotes around the lead pastor,
right.
And the reason you do that is to say, I don't know if we understand church rightly, if you can pastor multiple campuses.
Yeah, 15,000 or 20,000 people. Can he pastor 20,000 people?
Right. Does the New Testament have a category for one church that meets in Corinth, and also in Ephesus, and also in Philippi, or in their house, and then in their house,
right.
and in their house? No, it has this category of to the church that meets in that one, like this body, this flock. Right?
And that's what Eagle Brook is.
Yeah, keep going.
And so I'm tuning in to the live stream, again, doing that thing with my fingers.
Right.
And
sounds like a radio program.
The very beginning, that's another idiom. And the very beginning of it, there were two folks on the street before the event of the worship service doing like hype, like you would before a football game.
Yeah.
So, before a football game, you turn on your TV like 30 minutes before start time, and they've got, the hype man, interviewing the people on the street.
Right.
Hey, are you ready to go? And this is exactly what Eagle Brook was doing.
Yep.
And I don't know if they still do it. Maybe they do. Doing the live man on the street interviews of people coming to church. What are you most excited about this morning when you go to church? And it was an event. The whole thing was just this massive event. I was so turned off by it, just to point to what you're talking about. Yeah. I didn't have this idea of the language that you're talking about in my mind, but I just knew what I was watching there that morning was a massive turnoff to me.
That's a good sentence. I think most of us intuitively know something is amiss here. Even in COVID, when we got to go back,
Yeah.
I'm arguing that we would have actually never followed the government's mandate in the first place if we had better vocabulary of what the church is. But we just know there's something wrong in this instance, or there's something right in this instance. When you're receiving a hug from somebody who is praying for you after the weekly gathering, you just know, like, there's something so right about this. And there's something so missing when I'm at home being told I can't go to so and so's house for the weekly gathering.
Double click on that a little bit more.
Click. Another idiom.
So we talked a little bit about this idea of live streaming, and we still do live streaming here at North Center.
Can we figure out how many percentage of churches in the Global West live stream?
So we still live stream now, and we. At North Center, we started live streaming. I wasn't here, but during
COVID,
during the COVID experience, where we couldn't gather together.
Well, we were told we
limited.
couldn't gather.
Yeah,
together.
we were told we couldn't gather. Right. There were some places that had their church shuttered because they continued to gather. James Coates up in Canada, the Mounties, the Canadian mounted police, marched in, arrested him, put him in jail, put a gate around his church building, an entire fence around his church building so that they couldn't enter it because he refused to comply with the government's mandate that they could not meet. But all that being aside, we did the live streaming because of that experience. And if we had a more biblical understanding of lamenting over not being able to gather, I think that we wouldn't have done the live stream.
I know where you're going.
All right, so Psalm 42. So Psalm 42, this man is downcast. His soul is downcast, and he's depressed in soul. And he starts off by saying, I remember when I was able to gather, when I came to the assembly. And if you look at Psalm 42, he was in a place or a time or something in his life where he couldn't gather with the saints. And the depression was really around this not being able to be around his people, to come to the holy mount of God and to worship there. That's how the psalmist starts Psalm 42. That's why this man is depressed and downcast. And so, what if this man had a live stream he could attend? To assuage his, depression or make himself feel a little better, he could just click the link and go to the live stream and attend. Rather than lamenting not being able to attend, he could kind of fill it with this facsimile online.
Man.
Right? And I think that's what we did, is we put a poor facsimile of gathering out there with a live stream, and then the first time you feel like it's not right. Maybe. The feeling I got when I turned on that Eagle Brook service and went, man, I don't know what's wrong with this, but there's something wrong. It's not right. The first time you might feel that way. The second time, maybe a little less. The third, the fifth, the 10th, the 100th time, you may stop feeling that way.
Yeah.
And you're just going to, it's now become your rhythm to just attend online.
Yeah.
So I'm arguing that actually we should pull our live stream at North Center. And we can talk about this as an elder team, but we can record it and we can do it later. That's fine. I think that there's a lot of edification that can be done from posting our service online later. But the live stream makes it so that people can say, oh man, I overslept. I'm not going to make it today. I got a busy day. I don't want to get whatever. And so the temptation is turn on the live stream and attend church online rather than lament that you can't make it to the gathering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It also makes it so the elders in the church have an excuse not necessarily to do their job to reach out to folks that didn't make it to the gathering. For instance, the sick. So people would argue it's actually beneficial for those that are sick to be able to attend online. And so we say, well, it's good to have the live stream service so those that are sick can attend online, be a part of the gathering. Well, then the temptation from the elders is not to go visit the sick. Because, they're already getting fed through our live stream service.
Sure.
And so now we're not going to do our duty to go visit the sick or those in prison or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of damage being done with online live streaming.
Yeah.
And I would argue that we should just nix it altogether, the live stream portion.
We are a culture that is very good at creating imitations of the real thing. Mm-hmm. Which is Satan's number.
Yep.
That's his game. Is he creates nothing. He takes what God has created and he twists it and makes dark imitations of a thing. You're right. We are a culture that grabs a hold of imitations, and we have an imitation church, which is live stream, and it's not only everybody would agree or should agree that obviously that's not as good as being together. So I don't think anybody in our church would argue that. No. Well, of course it's better to be together. Your argument is, what if we didn't have an imitation option and learned how to embrace this biblical category of lament when we cannot be a part of what God has designed and we refuse to substitute it with something that culture has designed? So getting back to the idea of the event picture, right? You sit down, you find your seat, you don't talk to anybody. What do you do when you go to an event? You might sit and talk to the people next to you. You might. Think of going to like a theater event or a basketball game or something. You might talk to the people sitting next to you while you wait for the event to start. But you're not like praying with people. You're not doing community. You're just being cordial with the people that are sitting next to you while you wait for the event to start. Go to any church service and watch how the people wait for the event to start. You find your seat and you wait. And then as soon as the service is over, we do what we do at any event. We grab our belongings and we leave. Again, we don't linger for prayer. We don't linger for fellowship because those things don't happen at normal events. And this was our experience at North Center when we first came. I remember talking to people, I couldn't understand what was happening. The service was over and the church was gone. So I think we lose community. I think community is lost when we speak of church in a way that creates a category in our mind for an entertainment experience or an event experience like we would experience anywhere else.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
I think we lose our incarnational togetherness, and we've already talked about this. This is the idea of live stream. So when we think about church as an event that we observe as part of an audience, then it doesn't really matter whether I observe in person from the pew or online from my couch at home. If church is just what is produced from the stage on Sunday morning, then live stream becomes a legitimate substitute. But if church is something altogether different from what happens on the stage, I can no longer just sit on my couch at home and say I did church.
Sure. And more congregations are live streaming their services. How many live streams did you find, Trevor?
40% of churchgoers attend virtually.
40%.
But that can be a really wide range of people who may or may not be super attached to the thing in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. And if that wasn't available at all, 40% of Christians in America attend virtually.
40% of professing
Yeah.
church goers.
Yeah. Attend virtually.
All of that is in air quotes.
Yes.
That is a massive asterisk.
Yeah. 40% of professing churchgoers attend online.
Somebody needs to write, I'm sure it's been done, but they need to write a paper on ecclesiology in this world that we live in now with all the virtual options and everything.
Absolutely.
We need to get back to,
let's do it.
To something different. Oof.
What else do we lose? We lose participation because we come as consumers to be entertained. And again, I'm not arguing fault on the congregation. I'm arguing fault on language. If church is an event, then what do we do at events? We come and attend to consume entertainment.
Yep.
Lastly, we lose the covenantal commitment. This idea that I don't need the church. If church is just a day and a service, then nobody is impacted by my absence. This is actually critical. We have this idea that if I'm not here, no big deal, because it's just an event and I can do it online. We don't realize that your absence directly impacts the church, because it's a body, it's a community. It's not just an event, but if we think about it as an event, then I can participate, quotes, at home from my couch. I can sing, I can sit under the preaching of the word, I can give my tithe online, and I've done church. But nobody at the gathering has been able to hug you or be hugged by you. Nobody at the gathering has been able to look into your eyes or to see you look into their eyes. Nobody at the gathering has been able to hear your voice in singing. We act as though our absence has zero effect on the congregation because we don't think of church as a people. We think of it as this thing that happens here. And so when I'm done, when this church and its services are no longer scratching my itch, well, then I'll just go to a different church, no harm, no foul, because we don't have this idea of church as a body, as a covenant community, as members. And when you lose a hand, you the whole body feels it, but we don't think in member categories. We think in entertainment categories, not to the fault of the congregation. I'm arguing to the fault of welcome to church.
Sure. Well, and a lot of people think of church membership like a Costco membership. What is it going to give me? You know, you go to Costco to get a membership, you're going to get a discount prices, access to this bulk goods.
Yes.
You go to a church to become a member, you're thinking in the same category. What's the church going to give me? And when the church stops giving me that, I'm going to leave. And if you think of covenant language, covenanting together in a local body, you're thinking about a give and take, not just a take.
Not just a take, yeah. Now you're in 1 Corinthians 12 categories.
Right. And so you're going to, if you covenant together in a local body, that's a whole different thing than church membership, the way we think of it today in America.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to end this by saying, here's what we lose in the rest of the week, and we could go in depth on this. We don't have time. Here's two things that we lose the rest of the week when we talk about church as the event, date, place, time, all that. One is, again, we lose community because the language of the church in the New Testament was what happened all week long. I mean, they lived in each other's homes. They lingered at each other's tables, and we lose the community life that takes place. I mean, everybody in this room was in my garage on Friday night this week. Why? Because we're the church, and this is what the church does. We do life together, and we lose that when we have this idea of church being this one-off throughout the week. The Lord's Day is certainly the high moment of the week, but it's not the only moment of the week. Lastly, I think we lose sanctification when we have this idea that Jesus and me and my Bible kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Whereas when Paul's writing these letters in the New Testament, he's not writing to Steve, he's not writing to Trevor, he's not writing to Jeremiah. I mean, he does some of that. There's a little bit of that. Yeah. Dear Timothy, dear Titus, dear Philemon, but the majority of the New Testament is written to churches, which means when Paul is talking about how to do your life as a Christian, he's not talking about how does Steve do his life by himself with his Bible.
Sure.
divorced from the gathered community. When Paul's thinking about Christian life, his category is Christian life in community with the local church. Our sanctification process is stunted, is slower, because we think about the Christian life in individualistic categories. I have my private devotions. I have my, my private confessions. I have my, everything is just me and God. And this is the way that I thought for years. Whereas Paul doesn't think in that category. All of his admonitions to, I'm going to use the word Christians, are admonitions to the church that is doing this sanctifying life together.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And so they don't want to be a part of a local body because they claim that they can do it alone under their tree with their Bible, just me and Jesus, because it's about relationship, which is partially true, but they say, I'm about relationship, not religion. And so they associate the local gathering as religion, and they're very turned off by that.
Yeah.
And especially when you think of people that have come out of a Catholic upbringing, they really don't want the tradition and the religiosity of a Catholic church, and so they're like, well, I've discovered that me and my Bible and Jesus, I have this relationship. I do relationship instead, and I think that is all true. Yes, but there's something that happens in the gathered assembly that you cannot get alone under the tree with just you and Jesus, and that's the sanctification. Is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The iron sharpening iron.
Which
one
is
man sharpens another. So
right. So you get burned out, turned off by this. But say you're part of a Roman Catholic church. Language is tough. Say you're part of a Roman Catholic church that the service feels very lifeless, very religious, very legalistic, and there's no relational aspect. And so you're craving that relationship. You get turned off by that, and so you say, well, just me and Jesus. And I'm arguing what you've leaned into now is not relationship. You've leaned into isolation. What you're craving is relationship. So get into relationship with a church that understands what it means to be the church. You got turned off not by the church, brother or sister. You got turned off by legalistic ritualism. Yeah. So don't take that and go running into isolation. What you were craving in the first place is relationship. You're not going to find that just you and your Bible in the woods. Lean into the body that Jesus purchased with his blood, that understands what the church is and what it means, and treasures body life together. That's what you were missing in the first place.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
So my closing is this. I think we could serve our church by being as intentional as we can with the words that we use when we talk about all of the elements of church and church life. I think when we talk about worship, let's use the word worship. Corporate worship. And honestly, there's something I'm trying to work on, is I want to use less Sunday language and more Lord's Day language. So this is an area of, we're always growing, being sanctified. I use the word Sunday, I think, way too much. I want to use the word Lord's Day more. But to just say what we mean. If we mean corporate worship, say corporate worship. When we mean gathering, let's say gathering. When we're talking about a building, let's use the word church building or North Center. So my little 6-year-old, is so fun to hear him catch on. And so he'd be like, oh, we're going to North Center today? Or Dad, you're going to North Center? He doesn't say, he slips up sometimes because he's swimming in this language everywhere else. But if we're talking about a building, let's talk about a building. If we're talking about a people, then church is the word the New Testament uses. So let's use the word church and play the long game and see how the language of the spiritual leaders in the church doesn't, over the course of time, shape the way that we think. Words create worlds or worldviews. Phrases create philosophies. So let's use good words and good phrases so that we create good worlds and good philosophies.
Yeah, with the end goal being that we're a local congregation that doesn't flee at noon and not linger. We want, and also we're not a local congregation that never connects Monday to Saturday, but only on Sunday.
Right.
So we want a thriving local community that's doing Acts 2 stuff from house to house. They're breaking bread, they're fellowshipping together, they're praying together, they're helping one another financially or with tasks or with those kinds of things. We want a local congregation that does life together, and that's, a lot of people don't like that term, but
I love that term.
But actually doing life on life, person on person, incarnational worship, fellowship, all 7 days of the week, not just from 10:30 to noon on Sunday.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the end goal of all of this.
It is.
And through that, you're sharpening one another, you're weeping with those who weep, you're rejoicing with those who rejoice, you're sanctifying one another through your rough edges as they fall off.
Yeah.
And you're not running, if you're doing that well, and you're developing deep relationships with the folks in your local congregation, you don't run away as soon as you hear something you don't like. Because you got it. You're anchored in that local community.
Yeah.
You are really connected with the local body.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that if you're just there 10:30 to noon and you're not doing all the other things outside. And we don't want programs here to make a poor facsimile. That's the other thing that a lot of congregations do is they start just making more programs. Well, we're not doing really, our fellowship is weak, so let's have another program on this day. Let's have a Sunday night. Let's have a Wednesday night. And, while those can be good, they should be more of an outflow of the natural relationship that folks in the community are having, not a method to try to make it happen.
Right. They should meet real needs. If the church is longing to gather on Sunday evening for a different kind of teaching moment or a different kind of Bible study or those kinds of things, then do it. Great.
Yeah. Because they're desiring it.
Yeah.
The need is there, so you do it. You don't actually do a Sunday night to try to force it.
Right.
Inorganically to happen. Yeah.
Not programs for programs' sakes. Programs for people's sake, because we understand the church is not programs, it's people.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Last thing I want to say, though, real quick, is I've got some really faithful brothers up north Minnesota. They did a podcast a couple of years ago, and they were arguing opposite of us right now, saying we should speak of church. They are pushing against this idea that the church is the people of God, and therefore I don't need to go anywhere on Sunday because it's not a building. You just told me, Pastor Steve.
Yeah.
The church isn't a building. It's not a service. So I can be part of the church anywhere else. I don't need to go to your building for your service to be part of the church. So they're going to take our argument and leverage it against what we're saying to say I can do life outside of this. And what I want to just push back on that and say, the New Testament does not have a category for a church that doesn't gather. It's embedded in the meaning.
Yes, it is.
It wasn't even a thought that if you were part of the local church, you wouldn't be assembling on the Lord's Day. That's the language. They just, as they would always do, they would gather together on the Lord's Day in this person's house or in this location for what? Or for the breaking of bread, or gather on the Lord's Day for singing, congregational singing. I mean, this is as early, even outside of Scripture. We hear Pliny writing a letter to the local king complaining about the Christians, not sure what to do with them. And in his letter, he's like, they gather every Lord's Day to sing their songs to Jesus as if to a God. And then he goes on to describe their worship gathering. But just to say, yes, the church is the people of God, but embedded in the New Testament language is it is a people of God who gather regularly, and the high point of their gathering is Lord's Day morning, where they sit under the preaching, they join in congregational singing, they partake of the Lord's table. You cannot say you are doing church divorced of the regular weekly gathering on the Lord's Day.
It's a good word. Let's finish with that. Whatever you do, wherever you gather, if you're doing it online, we urge you to find a local body, to become a covenant member at a faithful Bible preaching church building. However you want to use that. So now he's tripping me up. But go do that. Don't pick the poor facsimile that's out there available to you. Get involved. Get plugged in, doing that thing with my fingers.
Another idiom, but
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
The clock isn't going to work. The electric clock isn't going to work if it isn't plugged in.
That's right.
You got to plug in.
So go do that. And remember, Leviathan is bound. Go take his stuff. Until next time. Stop looking at me. It's very uncomfortable. Welcome back to Plundering Leviathan, a podcast of North Center Church, where our aim...
I'll try again.
One more time.
Roar. Aim.
At least it wasn't Welcome Black.
Welcome Black.
Stop doing the finger thing. Oh my god. Stop. Stop it. You're doing the thing.
So
Focus!
so hard.
Focus, Steve!
It's not. It's because you're a clown. It's a clown show. This whole thing. It's an absolute clown show. Father in heaven, thank you for this time, this morning, this beautiful day. You have made it. We rejoice in it. We're glad in it. Thanks for our producer coming back under employment, and our director of communications who's shown up yet again, and for our live studio audience and Trevor. Lord, you're good to give us a room full of clowns for our clown show.
Tim, I'm sorry for how little we accomplished with Steve leading the show.
Don't break anything.
That was the most feminine basketball move I've ever seen.
Okay. Where was I?
Yeah, you were nowhere. I was. Oh no, yeah, you were.
I was somewhere.
Yeah, you were gonna wax eloquent about something.